Great. We're recording. Welcome, everybody. This is Weekday Somatics 6 with blurry video. It's an added feature. We're rolling out new features on a daily basis. You never know what's going to happen next. So let's start by sitting, if that's if that's appropriate for you. I'd like to. I always have so many things that I want to explore, and then rarely get to any of them. But I'll state this now so that maybe we'll actually do it. I'd like to explore some mouth stuff, mouth stuff. Today we'll explore mouth stuff. I'm gonna take a drink of water. So if it is possible for you to reasonably comfortably be upright, then we'll be able to explore in a similar way, because I'll be relying on this orientation relative to gravity for this exploration. But you can always modify based on what your needs are. So rather than have a 10-minute preamble, let's just get into it. I'm going to close my eyes because that is helpful for me. If it's helpful for you, then explore closing your eyes and see what that's like. If that's not appropriate, then keep your eyes open. And we'll start. This is the part where I always get so engrossed in the exploration. It goes on for 30 minutes. We'll see if we can do less of it today, but it's so nice just to sit in stillness for at least a few minutes. I find it very helpful. It's like it allows for kind of benchmarking, because I can notice what's different today, how this experience shifts over time, over the course of days or weeks or months, how maybe, and I don't know what your experience is, but I can say for myself, I notice that I have a growing familiarity with this stillness. I notice that the old habits of making compulsive effort to try and fix something or get it right or figure it out or get comfortable, that those old habits are much less strong, and that I have a growing confidence in the truth of this stillness. So when I say truth, I mean the authenticity of it, that I'm not making it up, but it's actually something that I'm able to align myself with, or allow myself to be in alignment with, if I'm not making the unnecessary effort. So I used to be less familiar with it. Because I was less familiar with it, I had a lot of delusional, wrong ideas about it. And I actually strained and worked really hard trying to avoid it, even though I didn't know that's what I was doing. So just for a moment, just notice where you're straining, where you're making effort, where there's unnecessary strain or discomfort. Cramping, pain, all all the bad things, just notice the bad things. And then notice the habits, these compulsive habits to do something. Sometimes the things that I do, they seem so small and insignificant. I've overlooked them as the causes and sources of my misery. I thought that couldn't possibly be it. It has to be something else. But for this moment here and now, I'm inviting us all just to find out, well, what if I don't indulge those habits and I just discover what the actual nature of the experience is rather than what I think it is? If I keep doing the same things, if I keep trying to avoid the experience, then I allow myself to continue to indulge the painful habits, the wrong-mindedness, the incorrect images. So I keep everything locked into place. It's like this web. You could view the body, the we call it like a somatic network, like a web, and this web becomes constricted and it's held in this restricted way through my wrong efforts. If I just sit here and notice where I'm experiencing the pain, the discomfort, the strain, I might start to notice, certainly I notice fear. I have fearful thoughts, fearful imagination. Like that, for example, that this sensation in my back means something bad, that it means something dangerous, that I have to work hard to protect myself, because if I don't hold myself in this habitual way, if I don't resist whatever sinister forces I imagine there are, then I have this wrong imagination that I'm going to be harmed. My back might break. It's like, it's a little silly, but actually it's true. We get these ideas from the world around us, the people around us, usually at a young age. We're very impressionable, and we think, oh, I have to be really cautious about these sensations, because if I'm not, then I'm going to break. But here I'm just sitting and I'm just noticing. And okay, here's an important tip. This is, I find, very, 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 very helpful. When I notice, for example, some strain, numbness, discomfort, frustration, pain, whatever, in one part of the body that calls for my attention, so we'll say in the lower back, I also want to become aware of what other unnecessary effort I might be making anywhere in the body, because, as I said, it's like it's a network, a web, and I'm continually amazed at how the seemingly distant, unrelated, insignificant things are like the linchpins that hold the whole pattern of tension, resistance, and so forth together. So, for example, I notice a kind of squeezing in my cheeks, around my eyes. So what if I allow that to soften? if I allow the throat to soften, the chest to soften, the buttocks to soften, the groin to soften, what if I allow for the breathing to become natural and unrestricted so that I'm not forcing it, I'm not restricting it, I'm not straining in any way? Now that all might be, this might sound like a tall order, so don't try to perfect it, but just explore, be curious about these possibilities and see if maybe you discover, as I do, this surprise, a very pleasant surprise, which is, oh, well, there's a softening in my lower back where I thought it was dangerous and I had to hold tight and I had to do all these things to protect myself, to survive, to get ahead, to be okay. Turns out I was misunderstanding the significance of the sensations. Okay. So that's very enjoyable and I could do that for a long time. But like I said, we'll do some mouth stuff. So for me, the mouth, I notice myself doing a lot with my mouth, holding a lot of tension in the jaw, in the throat, in the tongue. Like I'm trying to control the world and my experience in life with my mouth, which maybe seems kind of odd or funny, but the mouth has a lot of provides a lot of sensory input, so it makes sense from that perspective. So we'll start by exploring opening the jaw. We've done this recently, so this might be familiar, but approach it really in a fresh way, like you've never done it, because of course you haven't really. So we will start by allowing the jaw to open. So we're not pulling the jaw open, but here, assuming that you're in an upright position, gravity will do the work for you. All you have to do is just release. So we're not pulling it open. We're allowing it to open, allowing gravity to do the opening. We just release, and then we'll allow for the jaw just to remain open without pulling it open. So we're not making effort to open it, but we'll allow it to remain open, and then explore the spaciousness inside the mouth. So I'll do that with you for a moment. So how spacious can the inside of the mouth be? We're just exploring that possibility. Of course, don't strain. If this becomes distractingly uncomfortable, take care of yourself. You don't need to remain with your mouth open if that's not appropriate for you, but maybe just for another moment, if it is appropriate for you, just explore that spaciousness inside the mouth. Maybe you can become aware of that space in a new way. So, for example, you might notice that there's the upper space. So the space that comes into contact with the upper palate. inside the mouth, the soft palate near the rear of the upper portion of the mouth, the hard palate near the front of the mouth, closer to the teeth. How soft, yielding, and spacious can this be? There's the lower portion of the space that's in contact with the tongue. So maybe the tongue could relax and soften into the lower jaw. Maybe even you notice that the tongue, which moves into the back of the mouth, into the throat, in fact, that even that part of the tongue could soften and relax so that the spaciousness increases without making any effort. Now, let's explore maintaining awareness of that spaciousness so that we don't start to habitually enact our compulsive habits. That's redundant, but let's keep that spaciousness, that awareness of that spaciousness, as we now explore closing the jaw, and then we'll open the jaw and close the jaw. So we'll just be slowly opening and closing the jaw, maintaining that spaciousness. So we've discovered, hopefully, perhaps, some increased spaciousness inside the mouth, and we want to maintain that spaciousness as we slowly close the jaw and then open the jaw. We'll do that together a few rounds. So in order to maintain that spaciousness, you might notice that the tongue needs to rest in the lower jaw as the mouth opens and closes. So that may be familiar or it may be unfamiliar to you. But just allow for the tongue to remain at rest in the lower jaw as the jaw opens and closes. And as we open the jaw, we're just allowing gravity to do that. We're not pulling it open. Okay, now here's another variation to explore. So if it's still comfortable for you to explore this opening and closing of the jaw with the awareness of the spaciousness inside the mouth, you might also explore these two possible variations. One is to open and close the jaw with awareness on the teeth. So have awareness of the teeth, the lower teeth and the upper teeth, or if you don't have any teeth, maybe the gums, but the bones. Okay, so the structure, the harder structure, have awareness of the bones, the teeth, opening and closing, getting closer and further. So that's one variation. So we'll do a couple rounds of that. Still maintaining the awareness of that spaciousness and maintaining that spaciousness. Might require moving very slowly. And then the second variation is this. Same basic movement, opening and closing the jaw, maintaining that awareness of the spaciousness in the mouth. But now have your shift your attention from the teeth to the lips. So now become aware of the lips as they move apart and together. And as you do this, that may be enough already for you. It's a lot. It's a lot to be aware of. But as you're doing this, if you have any additional capacity to shine the light of conscious awareness on the experience, you might also experiment with also being aware of what else is happening. So what's happening in the eyes and in the cheeks and in the neck. And don't try to correct anything, but just see if there's any unnecessary effort that you can soften. So probably maybe you notice a difference between these two variations, just in case it's not clear, or to allow it to be clearer, or just because. Okay, let's switch back to awareness on the teeth as we open and close. Notice what that experience is like. Notice where you feel it, what the sensations are like. Notice what the images are. How you map this experience, how you conceive of it. Let all of that just flow. Let it come and go without latching onto it, without judging it as right or wrong. Just be aware of it. Just be aware. And I say without judging, but here's one judgment you could make. Is it pleasurable? If it's not pleasurable, good news. That means there's the possibility of greater pleasure. If it is pleasurable, also good news, because that means there's the possibility of even greater pleasure. So we're opening to this possibility of pleasure by opening to the experience as it is, rather than our mechanical interpretation of it. Now switch back to awareness of the lips as you do the same movement. Still having awareness of the space inside the mouth. And notice whatever you notice, but also notice what's different about this experience compared to the experience of having the awareness on the teeth. So the awareness on the teeth versus the awareness on the lips changes something about the experience. Probably changes the way in which we move. And if you're interested in doing so, here's something I think is fun. So this movement, opening and closing of the jaw with awareness on the lips, reminds me of a baby who's learning to use his or her mouth to do things, to make sounds. That's pretty interesting. Notice what kind of sound might you make if you were making a sound while doing this movement with the awareness on the lips. You might even add a little bit of sound, and maybe you'd be curious about how do you make sound? What's involved in making sound? So we're doing the movement with our jaw or with our face or however we conceive of that. Then we're adding sound to that. What is that? How do we do that? And what sound is produced? I won't do it. I don't want to give it away. Okay. And then maybe, let me just look at the time. Yeah, good. Okay. So let's wrap up this particular sequence of movement explorations with the jaw. We've introduced a little bit of curiosity about sound. Maybe then we could just breathe in through the nose in a gentle way, not exaggerated. And then on the exhalation, open the jaw and just make a sound, just the sound that just makes sound, and see what happens. Just see what that experience is like. Just the natural sound. So it's like, how do we make sound? Well, I suppose there are multiple ways we could do it, but maybe just in the most gentle, natural way, we simply vibrate the vocal cords. So there's air passing over them. We're having to do something somehow to allow for that vibration. And what happens, maybe I'll demonstrate this one because it sounds like a nice idea to me. I'll try it out. Ah. Ah. Well, that's even nicer than I thought. maybe we'll do this for a few more moments. Actually, rather than switch to something else after this. Let's just do that a few more times. Ah. 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 Maybe we could even play around with how relaxed can I be? How much can I experience stillness while making sound? So maybe the sound becomes quieter. Can I just be really curious about just this experience, just to find out this? Can I find that kind of balance point where I'm barely making sound, but I just begin to make sound? Uh, If you have your eyes closed, keep them closed for just another moment. If you have your eyes open, then just do whatever is right for you, but just rest for a moment here. If your eyes are closed, then explore what it's like to could we translate that experience of what we just did with sound, this very finding that balance where we're just barely making sound. It's like where does that sound come from? We're kind of exploring where that sound comes from. Because the sound is coming from, well, it's coming from silence, right? It has to. So we're exploring that transition from silence to sound. Could we explore the analogous experience from eyes closed to eyes open? So what I mean is, let's play around for a moment with allowing ourselves to open the eyes in this very, very gentle way so that there's nothing sudden about the experience. It's a very conscious transition from eyes closed to eyes open. That is a very interesting idea. Let's find out what the experience is like. So let's just see. Maybe if you're like me at all, maybe you find, well, I'll just put it the right way. I find that I'm in the habit of squinting a little bit. So in order to transition from eyes closed to eyes open, the first thing I have to do is release the squint, the squeezing, allowing the eyelids and around the eye to be soft. And I have to allow myself to explore and discover what am I still doing? I'm still making some effort, some unnecessary effort, because I have this sense that if I want to open my eyes, I still have to kind of fling them open. There's a little bit of violence involved. So I have to soften, soften, soften. Ah. Now, finally, I can actually, it's amazing. I can finally actually feel my eyelids. Before, I didn't even notice my eyelids so much. I just noticed the squeezing around my eyes. Oh, that's nice. Now I start to notice that my eyelids are becoming lighter and lighter, and I can lift them really slowly and smoothly. Oh, see my nose there? That's interesting that as my eyelids open, I notice that my eyes focus. Ah, now eyes are open. So take your time with that. You don't, let me rephrase that. If you wish, continue to take your time with that, explore that. If you're done, congratulations. And for those of you who are here live, there's no rush. Continue to explore that if you'd like. I am going to end the recording here, though. So if you're here live, you can stay on. We'll do our sharing and Q&A. And for everybody who's watching the recording, thanks for joining, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.